Nowadays, when it comes to learning about games, people read books or watch boring long videos, when in actuality, there is a resource that teaches you everything you need to know about games. That is context. If you have no context on anything, you cannot relate to it, understand it, and most importantly, you can't learn from it. So how do we get it? Thankfully, we have a resource that is rich with thick, juicy context. That, my friends, is RPGs. With this tried and true method, RPGs can help you achieve gains or gains, whichever one you prefer. And yes, there is a difference. If you played an RPG, then great. This will be very interesting for you. However, if you have not, that is also fine. I'm going to get you started on playing RPGs the right way. Hopefully I can help you see what RPGs have taught you already growing up as you've played them, or if you have not played them, I can convince you to start. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Before we begin, let us get a good and simple definition of an RPG for all the newbies in the room. Unfortunately, my definition of an RPG is all over the place, so I'm going to leave it to someone else to explain it in a simpler manner. To put it simply, an RPG is a game in which each participant assumes the role of a character. Thank you, Margaret Rouse. Thank you. It is vague. The definition is vague, but that is the point. You assume the role of a specific character, a character that you create. Your character has a specific set of skills and abilities. Whether it's a mage, a rogue, a demon possessed by Lucifer himself who wants to build a cult by forming the House of Gains so he can tear down his enemies, you name it. Your character can literally be anything, and that is very important. Because a mage will act differently from a rogue and have obstacles that he or she will encounter and solve differently than that of a rogue and vice versa. Generally, RPGs are in a fantasy setting, but it can be anything. I'm pretty sure most of you have encountered an RPG in your life. One of the most known and widely popular played RPGs is Dungeons & Dragons. There are video games that do this as well, but for the sake of simplicity, let's stick to the more traditional RPGs, both the tabletop ones and the video games. Now that we have a simple definition of what an RPG really is, we can now begin the character creation process. And when it comes to creating a character, you have to be very specific. But the good news is D&D provides us with the tools we need in this lesson to create a specific character. There is one thing I do want to mention before we dive right into this character creation. Remember, the purpose of this video is to teach you about getting gains through the context of RPGs. In order to do that, I like to take a completely different approach to character creation. But the beauty of D&D is when it comes to creating a character, or when it comes to anything regarding D&D, you can do whatever you want. The most important thing when it comes to creating your own character in D&D is the character creation sheet and your imagination. This will allow you to make the character of your dreams. But when it comes to my way of building a character, honesty truly is the best policy, specifically for the context of this video, because we are going to create you from scratch. So be honest with yourself. If you were a character in a fictional RPG world, what would your stats be? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Don't know? Ask your friends. They'll tell you what you're good at and what you suck at. Just in case for the people that have no idea what they're looking at, when I say stats, I'm talking about those 6 boxes you see to the left. I want you to look at those 6 boxes, and I want you to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 15. 1 being you are absolutely disgustingly bad at it, and 15 meaning you are the most perfect human being at it. Let's start with strength. Strength is pretty self-explanatory. Are you a beefy boy or are you a lanky one? Dexterity is basically reflexes, mobility, how graceful you are, etc., etc. Are you a majestic gymnast or are you a klutz? For constitution, it's basically asking how physically tough your body is in regards to manual labor, your immune system versus diseases. But for the sake of context, I also want you guys to think of it as mental toughness as well. Intelligence just means if you're smart or not. How much knowledge do you have? Are you very logical? Can you do quick maths or solve puzzles? Wisdom asks you questions like, are you good at reading situations and people? Are you able to act beyond your logic? And last but certainly not least is your charisma. How well do you talk to people? Are you likable by almost everybody? Does your personality, good looks, and wit attract people? Are you the life of the party? When we look to the right of the page, the rest is honestly all just you. Write them all down. It's a great way to see what you're good at and what you might need to improve on. What are your personality traits, your ideals, your bonds, your flaws, etc., etc., etc. Now don't forget, guys, to be honest with yourself in this evaluation. It'll help you out in the long run. I'll give you guys an example. Here's my character creation sheet. As you can see, my strongest attributes are my strength and constitution. I'm average in about everything else, and my weakest attribute is my intelligence. Unfortunately, teaching games does not make me smart at everything. You can also do the same thing with video games that you're playing. It may not be as specific as you'd like it to be if you were using a D&D character creation sheet, but you can pick a character and relate it to you. So for example, I would pick a character that is stronger and has more constitution than someone that is smarter and has more intelligence and wisdom. Congratulations, you have finally created your character. Now, ladies and gentlemen, class is now in session. You are ready to learn. Fair warning though, RPGs are brutal and many of them teach you gains that may register in real life. It's like a giant thick book that compiles all of life's cruelties and lessons into a level 99 monster that you actually can't defeat because unfortunately, you're just a level 1. Life is hard, really hard, and understanding that you are in fact doing things that grant you points in a game when you level up is very crucial. You need to allocate your points correctly. Now, as you may know, RPGs allow you to increase your stats in some shape or form. Whether it's equipping items to make your stats better, maybe it's leveling up, which allows you to get skill points that you can put into other attributes to make yourself a better character. However you decide to increase your stats, there is one thing that remains the same. Whenever you spend a point, you sacrifice the chance of using that point for something else. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you guys is being an all-around person or a perfect character in a video game is not a practical use of your character. If we're relating RPGs contextually to yourself, you are a finite being, you age, and you will not have the time to become good at everything, unless you believe in hella cheats. But unfortunately, we cannot cheat the game that is life. Choices that you make in RPGs can have some hefty consequences. Many of you that have played Dungeons and Dragons also know this as well. Maybe getting a little bit too greedy and trying to get that extra treasure chest may have cost you to step on a trap and trap your teammates in a dungeon full of bloodthirsty monsters that proceed to rip you limb from limb. Maybe you wanted to try to get more money by doing assassination quests, but sucked at it so bad and caused the whole town to be after your ass and eventually ended up killing so many people that there's no home for you to return to anymore. Of course, I can tone this down and give you a real-life example for the sake of context. Let's say I oversleep from my nap and wake up at 9 p.m. in the evening, and I am presented with two choices. I either decide to go to the gym or do my algebra homework. Both options will take me 2 hours to do, and both options end at 11 p.m. I can take the gym route, which will allow me to go get some gains at the gym, which I said I wanted to do anyways, and it will allow me to get stronger and learn and give my muscles the long-awaited pump it deserved. Or I can do the algebra homework on the Pythagorean theorem, which I will totally use in my future career as a marketing major in the business field. Although I think the gym route is objectively the smartest route to take, who is to say that you wouldn't take the other route? Every action has an effect, and that is something to remember. In the world of RPGs, there are a lot of choices that you can make that will ultimately impact how you will do in the future. Same with everything you do in life. Every choice you make affects something, whether you know it or not. For all you know, I could have a quiz the next day on the exact homework that I chose not to do, which will then cause me to get a bad grade in the class, which will then cause me to maybe do worse and possibly fail the class. But sometimes we don't think about the choices that we make. So it's just something to look at. And remember that everything you do affects something. Especially when it comes to people. Everything you do affects someone too. So make sure you take that into account. Going back to your stats, I did say that your stats tell you what your strengths and weaknesses are. However, they just give you a rough sketch of what you are good at and bad at. A lot of times I see people spending a lot of their times dwelling on their weaknesses. But I'm telling you, don't spend too much time on that. I don't know about you guys, but as a kid, I felt like I sucked at everything. But just saying that doesn't do anything for me, and it doesn't do anything for you. There's no such thing as sucking at everything. Every character you create has a backstory, and has something that allowed them to figure out something that gives them an advantage in their world. The same goes for you guys. You guys are the characters now. You guys have lived differently from me, and there's probably something that you guys are great at that I can only dream of doing. Maybe it's doing the Pythagorean theorem in algebra. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's singing. There is something. I also like the fact that in traditional RPGs, you generally have a group or a team of people that makes up for your weaknesses. I mean, you guys have friends that are sometimes good at things that you aren't and make up for those weaknesses. Maybe you're living a life like in Skyrim. Maybe you don't have that many good friends or companions. I mean, let's be honest. Lydia isn't necessarily the best companion in Skyrim. Maybe it's time for you to set out and find people that can compensate or play on top of your strengths. The last thing I want to talk about is this, guys. Life isn't a game, and you should not treat life like a game. But I must give some video games some damn credit. Lately, a lot of people have been hating on games. They say they're a waste of time, and even pointless with no meaning, and they're just for fun, meaningless fun. I do believe games are very fun, for sure, but they're not at all pointless. I've learned a lot of shit from games. Games are fun, especially RPGs. This is a class for context, my children. To me, characters, or rather your character, went through hell, strived to hone their skills, became a beast, and conquered the challenges they faced. A lot of time, people tend to treat life like a game, and although I do think that you can learn a lot from immersing yourself from games, and they can definitely give you a sense of escapism or a sense of relief from personal experiences, I know this for a fact. To me, the best RPGs that I've played give you context to specific things that you can relate to in your life in some capacity. Every RPG I've played, regardless of what it was, regardless how difficult it was, I always felt the same thing being pounded into my head after every one that I've beaten, and that is, your character has conquered his challenge. Now it's your turn. There are apps that try to do gamification by trying to make life a game, but I say screw them. Take life for what it is and use games as context. I don't know where exactly you are in life, but I do know that just getting better at things take time. Just like in the game when you're leveling up and honing your skills. Making friends take time. Just like in a game when you find comrades and other people to make up for your weaknesses and accept you for the way you are. We all have weaknesses. Many of them fixable, some take longer to fix than others, and we all have flaws. But that's just what it means to be human. Just like your character, he's not invincible, but nevertheless, they're able to succeed in some shape or form. We all have at least one thing we're good at, and it takes time to find it. The point in this gaming experience isn't to make life getting gains a game, it's a reference point to getting gains. Having context helps. The things that you've played and interacted with and done as a kid have meaning and can teach you something valuable that you can use to make your life better. So next time you play an RPG, be it with friends or by yourself, I want you to take a step back and look at it from a different perspective. You'd be surprised what you can learn. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Just a quick shout out to the people that have helped me in the making of this video. You guys know who you are. Also, if you guys did go through the character creation sheet process, I would love to know what your stats are, so just put those in the comment section below. I want to know your strengths and your crippling weaknesses. I gotta know all of those things. If you guys want to talk more about GainZ, make sure to follow me on Twitter at @TheVeryBigO, and we can talk about GainZ or GainZ, whichever one. If you guys want to play games while getting gains, make sure you follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/OsaOJone. Links to both of those are in the description below. Also, if anyone is really interested in D&D and learning more about D&D and what it has to offer, I have a couple links in the description for you guys as well. It'll teach you everything else you need to know about D&D just to get you started. So I'll have the links to those in the description below as well. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, strive to be the best version of yourselves that you can possibly be. Praise the House of GainZ, and have a good day.